Unlock your credit now. My mother pointed her finger at me. While Daryl gripped his beer bottle like a weapon, I said no. Glass shattered. Blood ran hot. An unexpected knock at the door. Our landlord stood there, body camera recording everything. My name is Harper Quinn, and this is the story of how I discovered that family isn't always who you're born to. Sometimes it's who stands by you when the people who should protect you become your worst enemies. When I found the forged signature on a $128,000 home refinance loan in my name and a rejection letter for a $40,500 car loan sent to my mother's address, the story stopped being about family. It became about crime. They threatened me, slashed tires, set fire to my doorstep. I locked everything down: my credit, my emotions, and ultimately, their fate. The October wind cut through Hastings Ridge sharper than usual that night. After a grueling 10-hour shift at Kestrel Helpworks' IT support desk, all I wanted was to collapse into bed at the house my mother rented. Instead, I walked into an ambush. Papers covered the kitchen table like evidence at a crime scene. Daryl Kincaid, my stepfather, stood behind them, his thick fingers drumming against a manila folder. My mother, Lorraine, sat rigid in her chair, her lips pressed into that thin line I'd learned to fear as a child. "Sit down, Harper," she said, not looking at me. "I just worked 10 hours straight. Can this wait until—" "Sit!" Daryl's voice boomed through the small kitchen. The beer bottle in his hand caught the overhead light, amber glass glinting like a warning. I dropped my backpack by the door but remained standing. "What's this about?" He shoved the papers toward me. "This is about you being selfish, about you not helping your family when we need it." My eyes scanned the documents: a home refinance application for $128,000, a car loan application for $42,500, both with my name typed neatly at the top, both requiring my signature. "I'm not signing anything," I said automatically. "You haven't even looked at them properly," Lorraine said, finally meeting my eyes. Hers were cold, calculating. "This refinance would lower our monthly payments. The car loan is for a work truck Daryl needs for his new contract. Then put them in your names. Our credit isn't—" She paused, choosing her words carefully. "It isn't where it needs to be right now. And mine is—" I laughed, but there was no humor in it. "I'm 29 years old, living in your spare room because I can't afford my own place. What makes you think—" "Your credit is perfect," Daryl interrupted. 770 score. I checked. Ice flooded my veins. "You checked? How did you check my credit score?" He shrugged, taking a long pull from his beer. "You left your laptop open last week. Saw you were logged into that credit monitoring site." That's a complete violation of—" "Violation." He slammed the bottle down so hard I thought it would shatter. "You want to talk about violations? How about violating the basic principle of helping family? How about violating the trust your mother placed in you by raising you, feeding you, putting a roof over your head?" "I pay rent," I shot back, $600 a month, which is more than— His hand moved faster than I expected. Not the bottle, his actual hand, backhanding me across the face. The force spun me sideways, my shoulder crashing into the doorframe. "Daryl," my mother's voice, but she didn't move from her chair. "Sign the papers," he growled, advancing on me, "or get out." "I'm calling the police," I said, tasting blood where my teeth had cut the inside of my cheek. "With what phone?" He grabbed my backpack, dumping its contents on the floor. My phone skittered across the linoleum. As I lunged for it, his boot came down, crushing the screen. That's when the knock came. 3 sharp raps that seemed to echo through the sudden silence. "Who the hell?" Daryl muttered, yanking the door open. Buck Halter, our landlord, stood on the porch, 60-something, gray beard, and most importantly, a small body camera clipped to his shirt pocket, its red light blinking steadily. "Evening," Buck said calmly, though his eyes took in the scene: me on the floor, blood on my face, papers scattered everywhere. Neighbors called about the noise. Everything all right here? Everything's fine, Daryl said quickly. Just a family discussion? Buck's gaze found mine. That true, Miss Quinn. I started to speak, but Daryl grabbed my arm, hauling me to my feet. The movement sent fire through my shoulders. Something was wrong, really wrong. A grinding sensation that made me cry out. She's fine, Daryl insisted, but his grip loosened when Buck stepped inside uninvited. Doesn't look fine to me, Buck said. He pulled out a receipt book, the same one he used for rent collection. I'm documenting this, date, time, what I'm observing, he spoke clearly, obviously for the camera's benefit. October 15th, 2024, 9:47 p.m. Responding to noise complaint at 442 Elm Street, tenant Harper Quinn appears injured, blood visible on her face, favoring her right shoulder. You can't just barge in here. Lorraine finally stood, but Buck held up a hand. Actually, I can... Lease agreement, Section 7B, right to enter in emergency situations. He continued writing. Papers on floor appear to be loan documents. Mr. Kincaid appears intoxicated. Broken items visible. Daryl's face had turned purple. Get out of my house. Your house? Buck's eyebrows rose. Last I checked, Lorraine Quinn's name is on the lease, and last I checked, she's 2 months behind on rent. That was news to me. I'd been giving my mother my rent money faithfully. Now, Buck continued, Miss Quinn, do you need medical attention? She's fine, Daryl roared, and made the mistake of shoving me toward the door. My backpack, my broken phone, everything stayed behind as he physically threw me onto the porch. My shoulders screamed in protest as I hit the wooden boards. I'm calling 911, Buck announced, pulling out his phone. This is assault. I have it all on camera. The last thing I heard before the door slammed was my mother's voice, cold and final. Don't come back until you're ready to act like family. The porch light clicked off, leaving me in darkness with Buck Halter, who was already speaking to emergency dispatch. Sloane answered her door on the third knock, took one look at me, and pulled me inside without a word. My half-sister had inherited our mother's sharp cheekbones, but none of her cruelty, where Lorraine was ice. Sloane was steel cold, but protective. Jesus, Harper, she guided me to her couch, her nurse's training kicking in immediately. What did they do to you? Daryl, I managed through gritted teeth, wanted me to sign for loans. I said no. She probed my shoulder gently, and I nearly came off the couch. This needs an X-ray. Possible dislocation, definite soft tissue damage. She grabbed her keys. ER, now. I can't afford. Shut up, we're going. The next hours blurred together. Hastings Ridge General's emergency room. X-rays confirming a partial shoulder dislocation. The grinding sensation had been my joint trying to find its home. They reduced it a moment of blinding agony followed by sweet relief, then wrapped me in a sling. 2 uniformed officers from Hastings Ridge PD arrived while I was still in the ER. Officer Patricia Holbrook, mid-40s with kind eyes, took my statement while her partner spoke with Buck Halter in the hallway. Mr. Halter's camera footage is very clear, she told me. We have the assault on video, plus his testimony. Do you want to press charges? Yes, Sloane answered before I could. She absolutely does. I need to hear it from her, Officer Holbrook said gently. I thought about 18 years of Daryl's temper, of my mother's cold manipulation, of every time I'd stayed quiet to keep the peace. Yes, I want to press charges. She nodded, making notes. We'll need you to come to the station tomorrow for a full statement. Mr. Halter mentioned loan documents. They wanted me to sign for a home refinance and a car loan, almost $170,000 total. The officer's expression darkened. Did you sign anything? No. Good. Don't. And Harper. She leaned forward. If they've accessed your credit without permission, if they're trying to use your information that's identity theft, you need to lock your credit immediately. Back at Sloane's apartment, she set me up on her couch with ice packs and pain medication. Her one-bedroom place was small but impeccable. Everything in its place. No chaos, no violence, no demands. "You're staying here," she announced, bringing me water. "No arguments. I need to get my things. Tomorrow, with a police escort." She sat beside me, her expression serious. "Harper, listen to me. This isn't just about tonight. If they're desperate enough to assault you over loan signatures, what else have they done?" "What do you mean?" "I mean, have you checked your credit lately? Really checked it?" No. Daryl said he saw my score was 770, but he shouldn't have been able to see that without your information." She pulled out her laptop. "We're checking now. All 3 bureaus. I don't know my logins. Then we'll create new ones. But first, we're placing fraud alerts." She walked me through the process. 3 phone calls, 3 fraud alerts. Each bureau required verification questions that made my blood run cold. Previous addresses I'd never lived at. Credit cards I'd never opened. And then the real kicker: "Have you applied for any auto loans in the last 6 months?" "No," I said, but Sloan was already frowning at something on her screen. "Harper, there's an inquiry here. 4 months ago, Ridgemont Auto Finance." My stomach dropped. "I know." Her fingers flew across the keyboard. "This is why they needed you to sign those papers. They've already tried once and failed. Lock everything down, now." We spent the next hour implementing credit freezes with all 3 bureaus. Complex passwords, security questions with answers that were lies. "Mother's maiden name, violent criminal," Sloan suggested darkly. PIN numbers I wrote down, and she locked in her safe. "This is your lifeline," she said. "No one can open anything in your name without these PINs. Not them, not anyone. What if I need credit for something?" "Then you temporarily unfreeze it. But Harper, don't. Not until this is over." My phone was destroyed, so Sloan let me use hers to check my bank accounts. Everything looked normal: my pathetic checking balance, my nearly empty savings, but normal didn't mean safe anymore. "First thing tomorrow, new bank accounts," Sloan dictated. "New email address they don't know, new phone number. You're going dark." "This is insane. They're my family." "No," her voice was sharp. "Family doesn't do this. What's my dad's name?" "Grant Walker." "And where is he?" "Arizona. Married to his 3rd wife." "Right. Different fathers. Same terrible mother. But you know what? Grant never hit me. Never tried to steal my identity. That's the difference between flawed family and criminal family." That night, lying on Sloan's couch, I stared at the ceiling and made myself a promise I would never unlock my credit for them. No matter what they threatened, no matter what they did, those pins were my shield, and I would die before I lowered it. My phone might have been destroyed, but Lorraine had Sloan's number. The text started before dawn. "This is ridiculous. Come home and talk like adults. You're overreacting as usual. Daryl's sorry. You know how he gets when he drinks. Family helps family. Why are you being so selfish? Unlock your credit and sign the papers." Sloan screenshot everything before blocking the number. "Evidence," she said simply. The next morning, we met Officers Holbrook and her partner, Rodriguez, at the house on Elm Street. Buck Halter was there too, receipt book in hand. "They left about an hour ago," he informed us. "Saw Daryl loading tools into his truck." Inside was worse than I'd expected. My room had been ransacked, drawers dumped, closet emptied, mattress flipped. They'd been looking for something. My birth certificate, I realized. Social Security card, they were in my filing box. "Which is where?" Officer Rodriguez asked. The box was gone. Of course it was. "Make a list of everything missing," Officer Holbrook instructed, "especially any documents with personal information." I salvaged what I could: some clothes, my laptop, a few personal items. The rest was either destroyed or worthless. 18 years of life reduced to 2 garbage bags. "Harper." Buck caught me as we were leaving. "I need you to know your mother told me you haven't been paying your rent. Said that's why she's behind. I give her $600 every month, cash, because she said you preferred—" I stopped, Understanding. She hasn't been giving it to you. Not for 3 months. He showed me his ledger. I'm starting eviction proceedings. Just wanted you to know it's not about you. Another betrayal. Another lie. The $600 I'd scraped together every month while they demanded I sign for $170,000 in loans. At Sloane's suggestion, we went straight to Pioneer First Bank. I needed to know exactly what we were dealing with. The branch manager, Marcus Lane, was a tall black man with careful eyes who became increasingly concerned as I explained the situation. "Let me pull your full history," he said. "Every account, every inquiry, every flag." 20 minutes later, he returned with a folder that made my hands shake. "Ms. Quinn, there was a refinance application submitted in your name 8 weeks ago. It was red-flagged because the signature didn't match our records." He showed me the document. There it was, Harper L. Quinn, in blue ink. But it wasn't my handwriting. Close, but not close enough. "They copied it from something," I breathed. "But what?" Marcus studied the signature. "It's consistent, like they traced it multiple times. Do you have any idea what they might have used as a source?" Then it hit me. My old lease agreement, from when I first moved back in. I signed that in blue ink. That would do it. He made notes. The loan was for $128,000 against a property at 442 Elm Street. But here's the thing, your name isn't on that deed. Because it's a rental. My mother rents from Buck Halter. His expression grew grimmer. They tried to refinance a house they don't own, using credit that isn't theirs. "Ms. Quinn, this is attempted fraud on multiple levels." "What about the car loan?" More typing, more frowning. "Here, 4 months ago, Ridgemont Auto Finance, application for $42,500. Denied due to insufficient proof of income." He looked up. The interesting part. The notification was sent to 442 Elm Street. "They knew," I said numbly. "They've known for months that they tried and failed. And now they're desperate enough to try to force you." He leaned forward. "Ms. Quinn, I need to ask, are your credit files frozen?" "As of last night." "Good. Keep them that way. I'm going to flag your profile in our system. Any attempt to access your accounts will require in-person verification with multiple forms of ID." "What else should I do?" "File a police report for identity theft, get a lawyer, and document everything." He handed me a business card. "This is our fraud department. They'll want to speak with you." From the bank, we went to the Greengate County Courthouse. If they'd tried loans, what else might be out there? The clerk in the records room was helpful once I explained I was checking for potential fraud. "Let's see. Quinn, Harper L.," she murmured, fingers flying over her keyboard. "Oh, here's something. Civil filing from 6 months ago." Civil filing. She turned the monitor so I could see. "Small claims. Ridgemont Auto Finance versus Harper L. Quinn. Failure to pay on a secured loan." "But I never—" "It was dismissed," she continued. "Plaintiff failed to provide proper documentation, but—" She clicked through more screens. "They sent notice to 442 Elm Street. 6 months. They'd been trying to use my credit for at least 6 months. And when the first attempt failed, they'd hidden the court documents. My own mother had watched mail arrive with my name on it, known what they were attempting, and said nothing." "Can I get copies of everything?" "Of course. There's also this: a lien search was run on your name 2 months ago. No liens found, but someone was checking. 2 months ago, right before the refinance attempt, they'd been planning this, researching, preparing. The violence last night wasn't a drunken explosion, it was calculated desperation when their plans fell through." Back in the car, Sloane gripped the steering wheel until her knuckles went white. 6 months. Harper, they've been doing this for 6 months. At least, we need a lawyer, a good one. I can't afford— Stop. Just stop. She turned to face me. "You know what you can't afford to let them destroy your credit, your future, your life. I have savings. We're getting you a lawyer." That evening, while Sloane was at her night shift, I sat with her laptop and started what I would come to call the Black Ledger. Every document, every date, every detail. The assault documented with ER records and police reports. The fraud attempts documented with bank records. The hidden court case documented with courthouse files. But I needed more. I needed to understand the pattern, the full scope, so I started digging into public records, social media, anywhere I could find traces of Daryl Kincaid and Lorraine Quinn. What I found made me sick. Daryl's employment history was a disaster. Construction company after construction company, rarely lasting more than a year. But the interesting part was why he left. 3 companies had filed complaints, materials disappearing, equipment vanishing, always amounts just under felony theft limits. And Lorraine, a string of retail jobs, each ending abruptly, no criminal record, but gaps that coincided with Daryl's legal troubles. She'd been cleaning up after him for years. My phone Sloane's spare buzzed. Unknown number. Hello. You think you're smart, Daryl's voice, slurred with alcohol. Locking down your credit. We'll see about that. How did you get this number? Your mother has ways. Now listen carefully. You're going to unlock that credit, or things are going to get very unpleasant. Are you threatening me because I'm recording this call? Silence. Then, you can't stay with that bitch sister forever. You have to come out sometime. And when you do... I hung up and immediately called Officer Holbrook. She listened to the recording, thank God for smartphone apps, and sighed. File for a restraining order tomorrow. Both of them. This is escalation. But they escalated first. The next morning, Sloane's tires were slashed, all 4. Clean cuts that said this was no random vandalism. The security camera in the parking garage had somehow been spray-painted black just hours before. They know where I live, she said quietly, staring at her destroyed tires. I'm so sorry. I'll leave. Find somewhere. Don't you dare! Her voice was steel. This just proves we're doing the right thing. They're scared. The tow truck driver who came to replace her tires mentioned something that chilled me. 4th set this month, he said. Same building, always overnight, management's going crazy. They'd been watching, planning, preparing the ground. That night, we didn't sleep. Every sound in the hallway made us freeze. When the fire alarm went off at 3 a.m., we ran down 12 flights of stairs with everyone else, Sloane grabbing her go-bag of important documents. The fire department found the source quickly, a burning pile of rags on the doorstep of 12C. Our doorstep, the cameras, once again, had been disabled. Attempted arson, the fire captain told us. Small, controlled, meant to send a message more than cause real damage. You ladies have enemies. We looked at each other. Yeah, Sloane said. We do. The next morning, Sloane called in sick to work the first time in 3 years. We went apartment hunting with Officer Holbrook's advice ringing in our ears. Somewhere they don't know, somewhere with real security. We found it in Havenline House, not an apartment complex, but a converted hotel that served as transitional housing for people fleeing dangerous situations. Run by a nonprofit. Secured entry. Cameras that actually worked, and staff trained in crisis situations. We don't normally take people who aren't fleeing intimate partner violence, the intake coordinator, Maria, explained. But given the police reports, the escalation pattern, we can make an exception. The room was small, 2 beds, 1 bathroom, mini fridge and microwave. But it was safe. The windows had locks that worked. The hallway had cameras that recorded to off-site servers. The front desk was staffed 24/7. Maximum stay is 6 months, Maria said. Hopefully you won't need that long. Hopefully, but I was beginning to understand that hope wasn't a strategy. Evidence was, documentation was, and I had 6 months of work to do. That night, in our narrow beds 3 feet apart, Sloane asked, "What's the plan?" I stared at the ceiling, a different ceiling, a safer one. I dig, I document, I build a case so airtight that they can't wiggle out, and then I bury them with it. She was quiet for a moment. Good. I opened my laptop and created a new document. The Black Ledger evidence log for cases against Daryl Kincaid and Lorraine Quinn. Entry 1. October 15, 2024. Assault resulting in shoulder dislocation. Entry 2. October 16, 2024. Identity theft discovered fraudulent loan attempts totaling $170, $500. Entry 3, October 17, 2024. Criminal threatening via phone. Entry 4, October 18, 2024. Vandalism, 4 tires destroyed. Entry 5, October 19, 2024. Attempted arson. 5 entries in 5 days, but I was just getting started. The restraining order hearing was set for the following week. In the meantime, Sloan and I established routines. She worked her night shifts while I worked days, meaning someone was always awake. We varied our routes, used different exits, paid attention to cars that appeared too often. Paranoid, maybe, but my shoulder still ached, and the smell of burning rags lingered in my memory. I met my lawyer at a coffee shop near the courthouse. Anya Greeley was nothing like I'd expected, early 30s, vintage band t-shirt under her blazer, and an intensity that reminded me of Sloan. Identity theft, assault, witness intimidation, harassment, she listed, flipping through my documentation. This ledger is good, really good, but I need more on the financial crimes. Like what? Like patterns. Have they done this before? To whom? For how long? She leaned forward. Criminals rarely have just one victim. Harper, if they're this comfortable trying to steal your identity, who else have they burned? How do I find that out? Public records, court documents, and sometimes, she smiled, good old-fashioned talking to people. So I became a detective. Hours at the library, combing through newspaper archives, hours at the courthouse, pulling case files, hours on social media, tracking down former neighbors, co-workers, anyone who might have crossed paths with Daryl and Lorraine. The pattern emerged slowly, like a photograph developing in solution. 2018. Daryl's former co-worker, Ray Dalrymple, filed a police report. Tools worth $3,000 vanished from a job site. Daryl was questioned but not charged. Someone had paid the contractor back in cash. 2019. The Hendersons. Former neighbors. Took Lorraine to small claims court. She'd borrowed $2,500 for a medical emergency, never paid back. Case settled when someone guessed who made a payment plan. 2020. Ridgemont Construction let Daryl go after materials for a city project went missing. No charges filed after the missing inventory was mysteriously found in another warehouse. But employees remembered Lorraine showing up with cash to resolve the misunderstanding. 2021. 3 credit cards opened using variations of Daryl's nephew's information. The kid was 19, in college. Perfect credit history ruined overnight. Family matter, no police involvement, debts eventually paid by a relative. The stories painted a clear picture. Daryl would steal, deceive, or destroy. Lorraine would clean up, pay off, smooth over. A twisted partnership that left financial wreckage in its wake. But the most damning evidence came from Buck Halter himself. I met him at his office, really just a converted garage behind his main house. He had files going back decades, the kind of meticulous records only a career landlord keeps. "I shouldn't show you this," he said, pulling out a thick folder. But after what they did, he spread papers across his desk. "Your mother's been my tenant for 8 years. Want to know how many times the rent's been late?" "How many?" 43 times. But here's the interesting part. He showed me a pattern of payments. Every few months, she'd catch up with a lump sum. Cash. Always cash. From their schemes? That's what I figure now. He pulled out another document. 6 months ago, Daryl asked if I'd be interested in selling the house. Said he had financing lined up. Just needed me to be flexible on the paperwork. Let me guess, he wanted you to say he'd been paying more rent than he actually had. Build up fake equity. Buck nodded. When I said no, he got ugly. That's when I installed the camera. You knew something was coming. I've been a landlord for 30 years. Harper, I know when tenants are about to do something stupid. He paused. The eviction goes through next week. They'll have 30 days to vacate. They don't know. Oh, they know. Sent the notice certified mail. But they're pretending they didn't get it. He smiled grimly. I have the signature confirmation. As I left Buck's office, my phone rang. The lawyer. Harper, I just got off the phone with the prosecutor's office. They want to meet. Tomorrow. Why? Because assault is one thing, but identity theft, fraud, those are federal crimes if they cross certain thresholds. She paused. How much did you say those loans totaled? $170,500. Yeah, that's federal. Congratulations. Harper, you just became the key witness in what might be a major case. That night, I updated the black ledger. 15 pages now. Single-spaced, dates, times, amounts, witnesses, a roadmap of crimes spanning years. Sloan read over my shoulder. You know what this means, right? What? They're going to get desperate. Really desperate. As if on cue. My phone buzzed. Another unknown number. This time, a text. Last chance. Unlock the credit or we unlock something else. You have 24 hours. I showed Sloan. She immediately called the police while I screenshot the message and added it to the ledger. Entry 23 October 24, 2024. Criminal threatening via text. Veiled threat of violence. Police notified. 24 hours. I wondered what they thought they could do in 24 hours that they hadn't already tried. I would find out soon enough. The federal prosecutor's office was in the Richard B. Anderson Federal Building downtown. All glass and steel and security checkpoints. Assistant U.S. Attorney James Weston looked like he'd walked out of a legal drama. Silver hair, sharp suit, and eyes that missed nothing. Ms. Quinn, I'll be direct. We've been building a case against Daryl Kincaid for 18 months. Wire fraud, mail fraud, identity theft. You're the first victim willing to testify. The first, I couldn't hide my surprise. The others were family members, employees who feared retaliation, people who took payoffs to stay quiet. He opened a file thicker than my ledger. Your mother has been instrumental in keeping him out of prison, but attempted identity theft of this magnitude, with violence, with clear documentation, this could be what breaks the case open. What do you need from me? Everything, every document, every recording, every witness who'll talk. He leaned back. But I need to be clear about something. If we proceed, they'll know you're cooperating. It could get uglier. Uglier than attempted arson. Potentially, his expression was grave. I can offer you witness protection if necessary. Witness protection, like I was testifying against the mob instead of my own mother. But maybe that's what family became when it turned criminal. I don't need protection, I said. I need justice. He smiled then, the first crack in his professional facade. Then let's get to work. The next 4 hours were exhausting. Every detail, every date, every dollar. He brought in a forensic accountant who got actually excited about my documentation. This is beautiful, she said, studying the pattern of payments Buck had shown me. Classic money laundering behavior, small enough to avoid reporting requirements, regular enough to establish pattern. Money laundering. Think about it. Daryl steals or defrauds. Cash appears. Cash goes to pay debts, keeping them one step ahead of consequences. Your mother isn't just cleaning up, she's washing the money. By the time I left, my head was spinning. Federal crimes, money laundering, RICO predicates. This had spiraled far beyond a family fight over loan signatures. The 24-hour deadline came and went without incident. No slashed tires, no fires, no attacks. The silence was almost worse than threats. They're planning something, Sloan said over dinner takeout eaten in our small room at Havenline House. Or they know about the federal investigation. How would they know? I thought about it. Lorraine always had connections, retail jobs, but she knew everyone, gossiped with courthouse clerks, bank tellers, anyone who'd listen. You think someone tipped her off? I think she survived this long by being smarter than Daryl. He's the violent one. She's the strategist. My phone rang. Marcus from Pioneer First Bank. Ms. Quinn, I wanted to alert you. Someone tried to access your account today, in person. My blood chilled. Who? A woman claiming to be you. She had a fake ID, knew your social security number, even had a copy of your signature. What happened? We followed protocol, asked for the additional verification we discussed. She couldn't provide it and left quickly. But Harper, he paused. She looked enough like you to be related. Lorraine, my own mother had tried to impersonate me at the bank. Did you? Security footage has been preserved and police notified. She won't try here again. But she would try somewhere else. The woman who'd given birth to me, who'd raised me, who'd claimed family was everything she was now actively trying to steal my identity. I hung up and made a decision. We're going on offense, I told Sloan. What does that mean? It means I stop waiting for their next move. Time to make some of my own. The restraining order hearing was the next morning. I dressed carefully professional, but not trying too hard. Anya met me outside the courthouse. They'll be here, she warned. Don't engage. Don't even look at them if you can help it. Will they have a lawyer? Public defender, most likely, unless they've found money for private counsel. They had. When we entered the courtroom, Daryl and Lorraine sat at the defendant's table with a man in an expensive suit. Lorraine had dressed the part of the grieving mother conservative dress. Minimal makeup, tissues clutched in her hand. All rise, the bailiff called. The Honorable Judge Patricia Newcomb presiding. Judge Newcomb was in her 60s, with sharp eyes that swept the courtroom. She read through the initial filings quickly. I see we're here for a restraining order hearing. Ms. Quinn, you're the petitioner. Yes, Your Honor. Anya stood. We're seeking protection orders against both defendants due to documented assault, harassment, identity theft, and escalating violence. I see extensive documentation here. The judge flipped through pages. Mr. Vance, how do your clients plead? The expensive suit stood. Your Honor, this is a family dispute blown out of proportion. My clients are devastated that their stepdaughter, Anya corrected, and that Ms. Quinn has chosen to criminalize a simple disagreement about finances. Simple disagreement. Judge Newcomb's eyebrows rose. I have hospital records showing a dislocated shoulder. I have police reports documenting vandalism and attempted arson. I have bank records showing attempted identity theft. Which part of this is simple? Counselor. Vance shifted tactics. Your Honor, the alleged assault was a misunderstanding. Mr. Kincaid had been drinking and that excuses violence. No, Your Honor, but taken in context. Let me see if I understand the context. The judge's voice could have frozen fire. The defendants wanted Ms. Quinn to sign loan documents. She refused. Mr. Kincaid then struck her with enough force to partially dislocate her shoulder. Is that accurate? The medical records could indicate. I'm not asking what they could indicate. I'm asking if that's what happened. Silence. Then Lorraine stood up, ignoring her lawyer's grabbing hand. Your Honor, if I may. Judge Newcomb nodded slowly. Proceed. Harper is my daughter. I raised her, sacrificed for her. All we asked was for her to help the family during a difficult time. By signing for $170,000 in loans. By supporting her parents, but she's always been selfish. Always thought she was better than us. Mrs. Quinn. Ms. Quinn? Lorraine corrected. I never took Daryl's name. Ms. Quinn, do you deny that Mr. Kincaid struck your daughter? She provoked him. She always provokes him. I see. The judge made a note. And the slashed tires. The attempted arson were those also provoked. We don't know anything about that. Despite threats made via phone and text, anyone could have. Sit down, Ms. Quinn. Lorraine sat, but her eyes found mine across the courtroom. The hatred there was pure, undiluted. The mask of motherhood had finally slipped completely. I've heard enough, Judge Newcomb announced. I'm granting the restraining orders. Both defendants are ordered to stay at least 500 feet away from Ms. Harper Quinn and Ms. Sloan Walker. No contact, no calls, texts, emails, third-party contact, nothing. Your Honor, Vance tried. The defendants lived, past tense. According to these documents, Ms. Harper Quinn no longer resides at that address. She looked directly at Daryl and Lorraine. You are not to approach her home, her workplace, or any location where she might reasonably be found. Violation of this order is a criminal offense. Am I clear? Crystal, Daryl muttered. I didn't hear you, Mr. Kincaid. Yes, Your Honor. Ms. Quinn. Lorraine's jaw worked. Yes. Good. Furthermore, I'm forwarding this entire file to the criminal division. The assault charge alone warrants prosecution, and these financial crimes. She shook her head. You two should prepare for more than restraining orders. As we left the courtroom, Vance cornered Anya. Your client's being unreasonable. We could settle this quietly. Settlement requires admission of guilt, Anya replied smoothly. Are your clients prepared to admit to assault and attempted identity theft? She can't prove. She doesn't have to. The video does that. The bank records do that. Your clients are looking at federal charges. Mr. Vance, I suggest you prepare them for that reality. Outside, I finally let myself breathe. It's done. The restraining orders. Yes, but Harper. Anya touched my arm. This was just the first battle. They're cornered now. Desperate people do desperate things. As if to prove her point, my phone buzzed. Unknown number again. But this time, it was Buckhalter. Harper. You need to know they're at the house, packing up. But they're burning things in the backyard. Papers. Looks like. Call the fire department, I said immediately. And the police. They're destroying evidence. Already did. Just thought you should know. Burning papers. Of course. Lorraine the strategist. Destroying the trail. But she didn't know about my ledger, my copies, the federal prosecutor's expanding file. Let them burn it, I told Sloan that night. We have enough. Do we? We have to. The next morning brought a new surprise. Anya called early, excitement in her voice. Harper, do you know someone named Derek Quinn? My cousin. Daryl's nephew. Why? He just called my office. He wants to talk to you. Says he has information about his uncle. Derek, the 19-year-old whose credit Daryl had destroyed. I hadn't reached out to him, not wanting to drag more family into this mess. Did he say what kind of information? Only that he's been documenting things too. And Harper? He mentioned something about a storage unit. A storage unit, where people hid things they didn't want found. Set up the meeting, I said. Somewhere public, somewhere safe. How about my office this afternoon? Perfect. As I hung up, Sloan looked at me with concern. You sure about this? Could be a trap. Could be. But if Derek really has information, then we use it, she nodded. Just be careful. Family's already betrayed you once. That afternoon, I barely recognized the young man in Anya's waiting room. Derek had been a skinny teenager the last time I'd seen him. Now he was 23, built like a linebacker, with tired eyes that looked older than his years. Harper, he stood awkwardly. Thanks for seeing me. Derek, how are you? Better now that Uncle Daryl's finally getting what's coming to him. He followed us into Anya's office, clutching a battered folder. I heard about what they did to you. The assault, the fraud. I'm sorry. You have nothing to apologize for. Maybe not, but he opened his folder. I should have spoken up sooner. Could have saved you this. Inside were credit card statements, collection notices, court summons, 3 years of financial destruction, all bearing Derek's name. He did this when I was 19, Derek explained. Fresh in college, no idea about credit. He said he needed to borrow my information for a job application. Next thing I know, I'm getting calls about maxed out cards I never opened. Did you file charges? My mom begged me not to. Said it would destroy the family. He laughed bitterly. Family, right. You know what destroyed the family. Him stealing from a college kid. Anya was taking notes rapidly. How much total? $23,000 across 3 cards, plus a personal loan I'm still fighting. He looked at me. But that's not why I'm here. The storage unit. Units, plural. He pulled out a key ring. Uncle Daryl's been renting them for years. Different facilities, different names, but he got sloppy used my address for one, trying to hide it from Lorraine. What's in them? Don't know, but last year, when he was drunk at Thanksgiving, he let something slip. Said he kept his insurance there, things that could bury people if he needed to. Insurance, evidence, leverage. Derek, Anya leaned forward. Would you be willing to give us access? I can't, not legally, but he slid a piece of paper across the desk. This is where the units are, and if someone happened to tell the FBI about them, well, they'd get warrants, right? 4 addresses, 4 storage facilities spread across 2 counties. There's more, Derek continued. I kept track of his jobs, his schemes. My mom didn't want me to, but after what he did, he pulled out a notebook. 7 years of cons, names, dates, amounts, people he's ripped off who never reported it. Why didn't they? Same reason I didn't at first. He's family, or he's charming when he needs to be, or Lorraine shows up with just enough cash to make it go away. He met my eyes. She's worse than him. You know, he's a thug. She's the brain. I thought of my mother, tissue clutching in court, playing the wounded parent. I'm starting to understand that. Harper, I'm sorry I didn't warn you. When I heard you'd moved back in with them, I should have said something. You were protecting yourself. I understand. No, I was being a coward. He stood. Not anymore. Whatever you need for court. I'll testify. It's time someone stopped them. After he left, Anya immediately called the federal prosecutor. Storage units potentially full of evidence that was probable cause for warrants. This could be huge, she told me after hanging up. If Daryl's been keeping trophies, records, evidence of other crimes. How long before they move on the warrants? Tomorrow, maybe the day after. They'll want to coordinate. Hit all 4 locations simultaneously. That night, I updated the Black Ledger with Derek's information. 7 years of schemes, dozens of victims, patterns within patterns, all pointing to a criminal enterprise that went far beyond trying to steal my identity. But something nagged at me. Daryl keeping insurance. That suggested he had dirt on other people. What kind of person keeps evidence that could bury others? The kind who plan to use it. He's not just a thief, I told Sloan. He's a blackmailer. You think he has something on Lorraine? I think that's how their partnership works. She cleans up his messes. He keeps quiet about something. What could be bad enough that she'd spend years enabling him? I thought about my childhood, the men who'd passed through our lives before Daryl, the sudden moves, the changed jobs, the family members who'd cut contact. I don't know, but I think we're about to find out. The storage unit raids happened at dawn. I wasn't there, of course, but Anya got updates from the prosecutor's office throughout the day. Unit 1 financial records going back 15 years. Tax documents. Many falsified. Bank statements for accounts under various names. Unit 2 electronics. Laptops, hard drives, boxes of USB sticks, all seized for forensic analysis. Unit 3. Physical evidence from construction sites, tools, materials, even a few pieces of heavy equipment. Serial numbers would need to be traced. Unit 4. The mother lode, boxes of documents, photos, recordings, and in a locked file cabinet, what the FBI termed compromise material. Compromise material, I asked when Anya called. Blackmail, essentially. Photos, documents, recordings of other people engaged in various activities. Your stepfather was building leverage on half the county. What about my mother? Harper, she paused. There's an entire box just on her. My stomach dropped. What kind of material? I don't have details yet, but the prosecutor mentioned financial crimes going back 20 years, well before she met Daryl. 20 years. I would have been 9. What had she been doing when I was 9 that Daryl could hold over her? The answer came faster than expected. That evening, Weston himself called. "Ms. Quinn, I need you to come to my office tomorrow. There are some documents we need you to identify." "What kind of documents?" "They appear to be related to an insurance fraud scheme from 2004. Your name is on several of them." "That's impossible. I was 9 years old." "I know. That's why we need to talk." I spent that night searching my memory. 2004. 4th grade. We'd lived in, where the apartment with the leaky ceiling numbed. That was 2003. 2004 was the fire. It came back in a rush. The house fire that had destroyed everything we owned. The insurance payout that had let us move to a better place. Lorraine crying about lost baby photos. Irreplaceable memories. Except, she wasn't crying, I told Sloane. I remember now, she was relieved. Maybe she was just glad you were both safe. No, she was relieved before the insurance check came, like she knew it would be enough. The next morning, in Weston's office, the pieces fell into place. He spread documents across his conference table like a tarot reading of crime. 2004. House fire at 218 Maple Street. Total loss. Insurance payout of $175,000. He pointed to the claim form, signed by Lorraine Quinn and co-signed by Harper Quinn, age 9. I didn't sign anything. We know, but she claimed you did. Said you were playing with matches. Accidentally started the fire. Child's signature meant lower scrutiny. He showed me another paper. Fire marshal's report. Suspicious but not conclusive. No accelerants found, but burn pattern suggested multiple ignition points. She burned our house down for insurance money. That's what Daryl's files suggest. He has photos of her purchasing camping fuel 2 days before the fire. Receipts she claimed were destroyed. A copy of a lease agreement for a new apartment signed a week before the fire. She planned it and used you as cover. A child playing with matches tragic but not criminal. He pulled out another document. But here's where it gets worse. The insurance payout. Only $150,000 went to housing and replacement. The other $25,000 vanished. Let me guess. Right around the time she met Daryl. 3 months later, and suddenly his construction business had a cash infusion for equipment. Weston leaned back. He's been holding this over her for 16 years. Every time she threatens to leave, every time she balks at his schemes. He reminds her that insurance fraud has no statute of limitations. I stared at the forged signature, my name in my mother's hand. 9 years old and already a tool in her schemes. There's more, Weston continued. We found similar patterns in 2007, 2010, and 2013. Small claims, underreported income, tax evasion, never enough to trigger serious investigation individually, but together. Together, it's a pattern of criminal behavior. Spanning 2 decades, your mother isn't Daryl's cleanup crew. Harper, their partners, have been since almost the beginning. So what happens now? Now we build a RICO case, racketeering, conspiracy, wire fraud, mail fraud, money laundering. With Derek's testimony, your documentation, and these storage unit finds, he smiled grimly. They're looking at decades in federal prison. Both of them. Both of them. That afternoon, I sat in Havenline House, staring at the black ledger. All that documentation, all that evidence, and I'd only scratched the surface. My entire life had been built on lies, schemes, crimes I'd never known about. My phone rang. Buck Halter. Harper thought you should know. They're gone. What? Cleared out in the middle of the night. Eviction was supposed to be served today, but the house is empty. Neighbors saw them loading a truck around 3 a.m. Did they trash the place? Holes in walls, fixtures ripped out, carpet destroyed. I'm looking at $20,000 in damages minimum. I'm so sorry, Buck. Don't be. I've got insurance, and their security deposit. Plus, he chuckled, I had my own cameras inside. Got them on video doing the damage. You put cameras inside. After the assault, you bet I did. Hidden ones. Completely legal since I gave proper notice. He paused. Harper? They didn't just trash the place randomly. They were looking for something. Looking for what? Don't know. But they spent hours in your old room, tore up the floorboards, checked inside the walls. Whatever they thought you hid, they wanted it bad. I hadn't hidden anything, but maybe that was the point. Paranoia eating them alive, convinced I had evidence they'd missed. Let them worry, I said. Oh, they're doing more than worrying. Word is they're heading for Florida. Daryl's got a cousin there who runs a construction crew. Florida. Of course. Run to another state. Start the schemes again. Buck, can you send me that video of them destroying the house? Already uploaded it. Check your email. I hung up and called Weston immediately. They've fled the state. We know. Federal warrants were issued an hour ago. Flight makes them look guilty, limits their options. They'll be picked up within days. You're sure? Ms. Quinn, they're driving a truck registered in Daryl's name. Using credit cards we're monitoring. Heading to known associates we've already contacted. This isn't Bonnie and Clyde. It's two middle-aged criminals with no escape plan beyond drive to Florida. He was right. They weren't masterminds. They were desperate people who'd finally run out of road. That night, I got a call from an unknown number. Against my better judgment, I answered. You destroyed everything, Lorraine's voice, raw with rage. Everything I built, everything I worked for. You destroyed it yourself the day you forged my signature. I'm your mother. I gave you life. I raised you. And this is how you repay me. You used me as a tool in insurance fraud when I was 9 years old. Silence. Then, you don't understand. I did what I had to do to survive. No, you did what was easy, what was selfish. And when Daryl came along with his schemes, you didn't protect me. You offered me up. Harper. I'm done, Lorraine. You're not my mother anymore. You're just another criminal who happened to give birth to me. You'll regret this. When you're alone, when you have no one, you'll regret. I hung up, blocked the number, added it to the evidence file. You okay? Sloane asked from her bed. Yeah, I think I am. 3 days later, they were arrested at a motel outside Jacksonville. Federal marshals, state police, local cops, a full show of force for two people who'd terrorized others for decades. The photos made the news. Daryl in handcuffs, defiant, Lorraine beside him, finally looking her age, the careful mask cracked beyond repair. Federal couple arrested in multi-state fraud scheme. The headlines read, 20 years of crimes unveiled. I didn't feel victory, just empty, relieved, but empty. It's normal, Anya assured me. You've been in fight mode for weeks. Now that it's over, your body doesn't know what to do. But it wasn't over, not yet. The trials would take months. Federal court first the big charges, the ones that carried real time, then state court for the assault, the harassment, the attempted arson. I threw myself into preparation, testimony prep with prosecutors, reviewing evidence, practicing cross-examination with Anya. Every detail had to be perfect, every word precise. But the real work was internal. Therapy twice a week with someone who specialized in family trauma. Learning that family didn't mean accepting abuse, that protecting yourself wasn't selfish, that I hadn't caused this by refusing to sign those papers. I'd simply revealed crimes already in progress. You were the crack in the dam, my therapist said. The truth was always going to come out. You just determined when. Derek testified first in the federal trial. Calm, prepared, devastating. He laid out 3 years of identity theft with receipts, screenshots, recordings he'd made of Daryl bragging about his schemes. Then came the other victims. Ray Dalrymple talking about stolen construction materials, the Hendersons detailing their loan that was never repaid, former co-workers, neighbors, even a few of Daryl's drinking buddies who'd been burned. By the time I took the stand, the pattern was clear. This wasn't one crime or two. It was a lifestyle. Ms. Quinn, the prosecutor began, can you tell us about October 15th, 2024? In detail that made the jury flinch. The papers, the demands, the violence when I refused. Buck's video played on the courtroom screens, Daryl's hand connecting with my face. the sound of impact clear even through the small camera's microphone. And when you refuse to sign these fraudulent loans, he escalated, slashed tires, attempted arson, threats. I kept my voice steady, clinical. They knew I'd discovered previous attempts to use my identity. They were desperate. The defense tried to paint me as vindictive, ungrateful, mentally unstable, but every accusation crumbled against the mountain of evidence. Isn't it true you've been planning revenge against your mother for years? No, I've been living my life, paying her rent, trying to maintain a relationship despite past difficulties. But you locked your credit to spite them. I locked my credit to protect myself from identity theft, which, as evidence shows, was actively being attempted. You could have helped your family. I could have become a victim of federal fraud. I chose not to. Lorraine's testimony was a masterclass in manipulation, tears, emotional appeals, claims of mental illness and coercion. She painted herself as Daryl's victim, forced to participate in his schemes, until the prosecutor introduced the 2004 evidence. Ms. Quinn, is this your signature on this insurance claim? Yes. And this one, claiming to be your 9-year-old daughter. Silence. Ms. Quinn. I plead the fifth. But it was too late. The jury had seen the documents, heard the evidence. A mother who'd used her child as a tool for fraud couldn't claim victimhood now. The verdict came back in less than 3 hours. Guilty on all counts. Daryl racketeering, wire fraud, mail fraud, identity theft, money laundering, mandatory minimum of 15 years, likely more. Lorraine conspiracy, fraud, money laundering, identity theft, 10 to 12 years. I sat in the courtroom as the sentences were read, watched them in their orange jumpsuits, shackled at wrists and ankles, waited to feel something satisfaction, vindication, even pity. Instead, I felt free. The state trial was almost anticlimactic, with federal convictions secured. Their lawyers pushed for plea deals. Daryl got 5 years for assault, to run concurrently with his federal sentence. Lorraine got 3 years for criminal threatening and conspiracy, also concurrent. The civil suits were settled quickly. Insurance companies wanted restitution. Victims wanted compensation. Buck wanted his rental property repaired. With assets seized and future earnings garnished, Daryl and Lorraine would be paying for their crimes long after prison. My credit, frozen throughout the ordeal, remained pristine. The fraudulent inquiries were removed, the attempted loans erased, my identity, fought for and protected, was mine alone again. So what now? Sloan asked, as we packed up our room at Havenline House. 6 months had passed. Time to move on. Now I live, I said, without looking over my shoulder, without wondering what scheme they're planning, without being asked to sacrifice my future for their greed. Where will you go? I got a job offer, Seattle, fresh start, new city, no history. That's far. That's the point. I smiled at my sister, my real family. You could come. They need nurses everywhere. Maybe, in a bit, someone needs to keep an eye on Derek. Make sure he's okay. Derek had struggled with the trial, with testifying against family, but he'd done it, broken the cycle. He'll be fine. We all will. The last time I saw Lorraine and Daryl was at the final restitution hearing. They sat at the defendant's table, looking smaller somehow. Prison had already started its work, Daryl's bulk reduced, Lorraine's careful appearance abandoned. The judge read out the final numbers, $247,000 in restitution to various victims, $180,000 in fraudulent loans they'd attempted in my name, $23,000 stolen from Derek, plus damages, court costs, victim compensation funds. Do you understand these obligations? The judge asked. Yes, they answered in unison, broken voices from broken people. Ms. Harper Quinn, is there anything you'd like to say? I stood, looked at the woman who'd given birth to me, the man who'd terrorized me, thought of all the words I could say, the anger, the hurt, the betrayal. Instead, I said, "No, Your Honor, they've taken enough of my time." The judge nodded. Court is adjourned. As the bailiffs led them away, Lorraine turned. Our eyes met across the courtroom. In hers, I saw hatred, blame, self-pity. In mine, she saw nothing. I'd given her nothing because she deserved nothing. The doors closed behind them, 10 to 15 years before they'd breathe free air again. By then, I'd have built a life they'd never touch. Outside the courthouse, Anya hugged me. You did it. We did it. No, Harper, you stood up. You said no. You protected yourself when no one else would. That took incredible courage. I thought about that October night, the moment I'd said no. Such a small word that had unraveled so much. It wasn't courage, I said. It was survival. Same thing, sometimes. The Seattle job was everything I'd hoped. Tech support for a company that valued its employees, paid fairly, offered real benefits. I found an apartment with working locks and windows that faced the sound, bought furniture that was mine, not salvaged or borrowed. But the best part, the credit card offers that came in the mail got shredded without a second thought. My credit stayed locked, score of 770 protected like gold in a vault. Because that's what I'd learned. Some things, once fought for, you never let go. Some boundaries, once set, you never lower. Some people, once revealed as criminals, never get second chances. Family isn't blood. It's not obligation or manipulation or signatures on fraudulent loans. Family is Sloan, checking in weekly from across the country. It's Derek, rebuilding his credit and his life. It's Buck Halter, who sent a Christmas card with a photo of the renovated house and a note, "Thank you for stopping them." It's even strangers on the internet who read about the case and reached out with their own stories. Survivors recognizing survivors, people who'd also said no and faced the consequences. Unlock your credit now. Those words still echo sometimes, in dreams, in quiet moments, in the space between sleep and waking, but they have no power anymore, no fear attached, no guilt. Because my credit, like my life, like my future, like my freedom, remains locked, not out of fear or spite, but out of self-respect, out of the knowledge that I decide who gets access to my life. And some people get nothing but a dial tone and a block number. Some people get only what the law requires and not an inch more. Some people learn that when you try to steal from your own child, when you use violence to enforce your greed, when you spend decades building a criminal empire on the backs of people who trusted you sometimes, those people fight back. Sometimes they document everything. Sometimes they refuse to be victims. Sometimes they lock their credit and throw away the key. And sometimes, just sometimes, that's enough to bring the whole house of cards tumbling down. The call from the Federal Bureau of Prisons came 2 years later. Daryl Kincaid had died in prison. Heart attack, brought on by untreated diabetes and the stress of incarceration. He was 53. Do you want to claim the body? They asked. No, he's not my family. Lorraine would serve her full sentence alone now. No partner in crime, no one to clean up after, just a woman facing the consequences of her choices. I felt nothing, no grief, no satisfaction, just a quiet acknowledgement that actions have consequences, and some people face them sooner than others. That night, I called Sloan. Did you hear? Yeah, Derek called. He's not claiming the body either. Are we bad people? No, she said firmly. We're survivors who refuse to pretend criminals deserve forgiveness just because they're dead. She was right. Death didn't erase crimes. It didn't restore stolen money or heal dislocated shoulders or unburn evidence. It just meant one less criminal in the world. I marked it in the black ledger, that document I'd kept all these years, not out of paranoia, but as a reminder of what I'd survived, of what I'd overcome, of why some doors, once locked, should stay that way forever. Final entry. October 15th, 2026. 2 years to the day. From when this started, Daryl Kincaid deceased, Lorraine Quinn serving year 2 of 10-12. Restitution payments ongoing, credit still locked, life moving forward. Justice. It turns out, isn't always dramatic. Sometimes it's just paperwork and patience and the willingness to say no and mean it. Sometimes it's choosing yourself over family who only sees you as a tool. Sometimes it's building a life they can't touch, success they can't steal, peace they can't shatter. And sometimes, late at night when the world is quiet and the sound is calm outside my window, I think about that moment, beer bottle gleaming, papers scattered, violence in the air. Unlock your credit now. No, such a small word. Such a powerful answer. Such a perfect ending to their criminal story, and beginning to my free one. Because in the end, that's what revenge looks like. Not violence or schemes or dramatic confrontations, just a woman who refused to be a victim, who documented the truth, who protected herself when no one else would. A woman who locked her credit and her boundaries and her resolve, and never, ever unlocked them again. Thank you so much for listening to my story. It's been a journey sharing this with you, and I hope it resonates with anyone who's ever had to stand up against family members who tried to exploit them. I'm curious, where are you listening to this story right now? Are you driving to work, relaxing at home, or maybe taking a walk? Drop a comment below and let me know. I love hearing from listeners and connecting over these shared experiences. If this story touched you, or if you know someone who might need to hear it, please hit that subscribe button and like this video. And if you really want to help this story reach more people who might be dealing with similar situations, hit that hype button. Your support means the world and helps these important stories find the people who need them most. Remember, sometimes the strongest thing you can do is say no and protect yourself. You deserve safety, respect, and a future that's yours alone. Stay strong out there.